The slipper wasn't mine. Act 1. The transformation. You think you know this story. Glass slipper, sad girl, fairy sparkles. Yeah, we all heard that one. But what if I told you the slipper wasn't mine? I mean, duh. But maybe the story never really belonged to her either. Because tonight everything changed. I wasn't supposed to be real. I was a mouse, literally. And this is what actually happened. We lived in the walls. Warm corners, broken beams, just enough space to stay small. Ella made it feel big. She fed us crumbs, whispered stories when no one else was listening. She gave us names. She called me Mika. She was what kindness looked like when it cracked but still holding on. We helped her, in our own way. Tangled laces, twisted corsets, swapping sugar with salt when the sisters weren't looking. Finn, my friend, said I was pushing it. Finn's the quiet and cautious type. Thread counting, rule following, safety first, Finn said. Mika, don't get too close to the story. It chews up little things like us. But I didn't want crumbs from the edge. I wanted the whole damn feast. The birds adored her. They swooped in like royalty. I kept my distance, too flappy, too beaky. Me? I preferred fabric. Old velvet, loose threads, ribbon ends. I made things, tiny clothes, mismatched outfits. One day she saw me, stitching a sash out of curtain fringe. She knelt down, didn't scream, didn't flinch. She just smiled.
You've got good taste.
And I've been chasing that smile ever since.
You may go to the ball if you finish your chores and find something suitable to wear.
We all got to work. Finn ran thread lines like a general. The birds dropped jewels they borrowed. I climbed up to the attic and found it. A curtain, deep blue, soft as sorrow, still holding someone's forgotten dream. I cut it, measured it, turned it into a sash, and wrapped it around Ella's waist like a promise. She turned in the mirror. The dress swayed with her breath. Her eyes wide, like she was seeing herself for the first time.
It's beautiful.
No, it's you. Finally. She spun. We danced around her. Mice, birds, everyone. And for a moment, we believed. They came in like a storm. The sisters, the stepmother. They tore the dress, tore her hope, poured ashes on her like a shame. One of got stepped on. I didn't move, just watched her crumble. She didn't cry, didn't yell. She just stood, covered in ruin, and walked to the tree. She always went there when her heart broke. The others said, "Don't follow." But I did. And that's when I saw her. Not Ella, her, the fairy godmother. Only not sweet and not soft. She was made of starlight and warning. Her eyes looked at me like they'd seen 1,000 endings and still believed in beginnings. She raised her hand, and I burned. I had a body, arms, legs, skin, and jawline. I have thighs. I have elbows. I have cheekbones. She let me go with a look, but before I could run,
When the clock strikes 12, you return, not as a boy, but as what you are.
we took Ella to the ball. That was supposed to be it. But once I saw that ballroom, the gold, the candles, the sound of dreams rustling on their silk, I couldn't stay outside. I slipped in. I didn't know how to dance, so I didn't. I moved like someone who forgot he wasn't invited, and then I tripped into the stepsister. She was shocked, of course, but someone caught me. Him. Ice like midnight storms. His hand on my waist, his breath held. My breath stolen. He looked at me like he wasn't supposed to, and I looked back like I didn't care. Because I didn't. Not in that moment. Then, I saw her, Ella, standing at the edge of the crowd, half in the dark, watching. And I remembered the godmother's voice.
Midnight.
I let go of him, stepped aside. He hesitated, then turned, walked to her, offered his hand. She blinked, like she didn't believe it, then took it. They began to dance, but every time he turned, he looked back at me. My chest ached, my fingers flickered, not just my body, my hope. When the clock struck midnight, she spun too fast. The slipper slipped off. It hit the marble stairs with a sound that froze the world. He turned back one more time, and I knew he remembered me. And then it was over. She stood on the stairs, one shoe gone. He started at the spot I had just been. And I was mice again. The slipper wasn't mine, but maybe the story always was. The slipper wasn't mine. Chapter 2. The tree still stands. When the magic broke, I didn't fall, I folded. Neatly, quietly, the way paper folds around something. It was never meant to hold. No one saw me vanish. It just disappeared. Back into myself, back into something smaller. The velvet was still clutched in my paws. A scrap from the sash I'd sewn for Ella. I remember the way it looked in the moonlight when she wore it. The way she tore. The way I thought we made something real. But now, it was just fabric. I didn't move for hours. The hearth was cold and empty. The shadows didn't even shift. Maybe time stopped with me. Finn found me, eventually. He always does. That's his magic. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't say anything at all. Just sat beside me in the ashes and waited. Later he tried to joke. I had been something beautiful. And then, it was gone. I don't know what made me go back to the tree. Maybe it was because no one stopped me. The moon was high and cold above the orchard. The path to the tree felt longer than before. Like it knew what I've done. I walked slowly. And when I reached the tree, I didn't stand tall. I didn't call out. I knelt. And I whispered. I wasn't trying to steal anything I said. I just wanted to feel real. I don't know if I expected an answer, but I was too tired to pretend I didn't want one. Then when she appeared, no, not the godmother. No lightning, no grandeur, just shimmer. A flicker of starlight in the far foam. A mouse, not much bigger than me, with a velvet ribbon for a cape, and an earring made from broken beads. She didn't announce herself.
You're waiting for her?
Her voice came. Tiny, dry, full of dust and secrets.
She doesn't come for repeat customers.
I stared.
The one with the dress, the drama, the wand.
The mouse waved a paw.
Too busy granting new stories. You're in the rewrite phase.
That's when I realized. this wasn't the fairy godmother. This was someone smaller. Older, maybe wiser. Who are you? I asked.
Fairy. Got mouse.
She said, like it was obvious.
Or Sparkle, if you insist on nicknames.
I blinked. She tilted her head.
You wanted to be human, but you never loved the mouse first.
I don't know what to say to that. My tongue felt too thick. My chest too hollow. I thought I had made peace with who I was. But maybe I only ever dreamed of being something else. I felt big, I said finally.
But it doesn't count. If you only believe it when someone else is holding your hand.
I looked away.
You have to be your own magic first.
She added. Then she smiled. It wasn't sweet, but it was real.
Next time you ask to be transformed,
She said.
make sure you know who you're becoming.
She vanished before I could respond, in a swirl of dandelion fluff and dust. But I heard her voice echo just once more.
Borrowed time only feels real when you forget it's borrowed.
I walked back slower, my paws dragging. Back home, Finn didn't ask where I'd been, but he saw something had shifted. He handed me half a walnut. I nodded in thanks. We sat in silence. Then a shadow dropped across our windowsill. A bird, out of breath, covered in crumbs.
The prince.
It chirped.
He's looking for the girl. The one with the glass slipper.
I froze. My mind flashed to the dance. The step. The way the prince had looked at me. Then her. Then back at me again. Finn groaned.
Not again.
I stood up. We have to help. Finn tilted his head.
Help who?
Help him. He's looking in the wrong direction. He's chasing a symbol, not a person. We're small, I said. We can't hide. We can't sneak. We can reach him. Finn groaned again.
Why is it always me doing this sneaking?
But he followed. He always does. The journey was ridiculous. We hitched the ride, dodged wheels, climbed up curtain, nearly drowned in a puddle of spilled wine. And then, we made it. The palace. We crept into the ballroom. And there he was. The prince. Alone. Seated on the ballroom steps. One slipper in his lap. His face turned toward the moonlight. Still dressed in royal blue. Like he's deflated under the weight of the crown. I climbed to the table near him. Found a parchment. An inkwell. My paws trembled. Finn climbed onto my shoulder. Whispered.
You sure?
I nodded. I dipped the quill. And began to write. Her name is... Eyes. Glowing. The castle cat. I froze.
Don't move.
I whispered. To Finn. To myself. His claws were up. One paw already mid-swing. Eyes narrowed. Back legs coiled. Every instinct in his body said pounce. And I thought, so this is it? No fairy tale ending. No second chance. Just teeth. Just fur. Just the blur of claws. And a note I didn't even get to finish. Finn curled against my side. Eyes shut. And then, everything stopped. The cat lifted. Not by wings, not by magic, but by hands. Human hands. Strong, gentle, unexpected. The prince. The cat hissed. But the prince didn't flinch. He just held it, held him, held time. And then he looked down, right at us, right at me. Not at the note, not at the ink, at me. His gaze didn't say, "What are you?" It said, "I've seen you before." I didn't breathe. I didn't move. Neither did Finn. We were two mice, caught on the edge of a page, in a story that wasn't ours anymore. His eyes flicked to the paper, the half-written sentence, "Her name is," and then back to me, not confused, not angry, just watching. And something in his face softened. A corner of memory bent and folded, like maybe he couldn't place me, but he felt me. Like I was music he couldn't name, but couldn't stop humming. Then Finn squeaked. We ran. Down the table leg, over the velvet clothes, behind the silver plate. The whole ballroom blurred past. I didn't dare look back. Not until we were halfway down the corridor. And Finn had stopped breathing like a deflated bellows. I turned, just once. And I saw him. Still standing by the table. Still holding the cat. Still looking our way. He didn't call out. He didn't chase. But he didn't look away either. That's when I knew. He remembered something. Not my face, not my name, but the way it felt when our hands touched. The weight of a glance. The beat of a dance we never got to finish. We slipped into the walls and didn't stop until we reached the attic. Collapsed in a drawer of fabric scraps and thread. Finn didn't say anything. Neither did I. The slipper wasn't mine. Act 3. A glass slipper. A hidden truce. The castle had dispatched guards, messengers, and a velvet-lined box holding a single glass slipper, like it was an ancient relic instead of something someone had literally run out of. At first, we thought maybe he wouldn't go through with it. Maybe the prince would remember the feeling, not just the moment, and follow the thread back to me. But hope is slippery, and the slipper wasn't mine. Everywhere, girls were lined up like laundry, blushing, preening, some pretending their foot was smaller than it was, others just hoping he'd look at them first, so they could pretend it had been a fate. We watched from the rafters as the slipper was slipped onto ankle after ankle, and was each not quite fit. I watched the prince's shoulder curl inward, like the search wasn't bringing him closer to something, but hollowing him out from the inside. He didn't speak much. Only once, when a girl toe barely brushed the heel off the shoe, he murmured,
Not quite.
It wasn't cruel. It was wistful, like someone humming a song with the wrong words. Finn and I had no plan, just instinct. We had to get back to Ella before they got it wrong forever. The stepsisters went feral, ankles wrapped, corsets tighter. One tried soaking her foot in milk and honey, claiming it made the skin compliant. Another stuck ice cubes between her toes for slimming. Both screamed. Ella stayed silent. She watched them whirl around like bees in perfume. Didn't speak. Didn't move. Didn't even check if the slipper would fit her. When we arrived, the stepsisters were already elbowing their way to the front. The older one tried first. She twisted her foot sideways, gritting her teeth until her face matched the shade of her gown. The younger one shoved her aside, tried stuffing cotton at the tip of the slipper, but the shoe refused them both. It just sat there, patient, indifferent, like it already knew it was waiting for someone else. The prince turned, one foot on the step, one breath from leaving. And then, chaos. Bursts erupted from the roof beams.
Ella, you have to meet Ella. She's here.
They spiraled above the guards. And below them, the mice moved. Some dashed straight for the fireplace where Ella still sat, knees drawn to her chest, watching the room unravel with a kind of tired grace. But not me, not Finn. We went the other way, straight for the prince. And then I grabbed the hem of his coat, pulled. He stopped. Finn scrambled out the other side and tugged twice.
Hey, Your Highness,
He squeaked.
you're about to miss the point.
The prince looked down, not confused, not scared, just still, like the moment was holding its breath. Then, across the room, Ella stood. Barefoot, unflinching, quiet in the way that makes people lean forward. She didn't make a speech. She didn't plead. The prince turned, not because of the birds, not because of the mice, because something shifted in the room. The kind of stillness that falls just before magic speaks. She walked forward, like the slipper was calling her, like maybe it had always been hers. The slipper was still cradled in a guard's gloved hands. He looked at the prince. The prince nodded. And Ella slipped her foot inside. Slipped on was the sound of truth. It didn't sparkle. It didn't sing. It just fit. The room sighed. Someone clapped. The stepsisters fainted in opposite directions. And I stepped back into the shadows, feeling a story close like a book not written for me. But then, the prince looked up, past the cheers, past the fuss. And for the second time, he saw me, not as a mouse, not as a mistake, but as someone who had been there, who had mattered. His gaze didn't linger, but it landed. And then, he stepped down beside Ella. The crowd pressed in, but he only saw her.
Her name?
He asked, turning to a guard. The man stammered. Ella blinked, then smiled shyly.
It's Ella.
She said softly. A hush. Then cheers again. Louder now. Wilder. The slipper had found its story, but the prince still looked at her like something didn't quite click. He kneels and gently reaches out. He lifts me first. In his hands, warmth, care, awe. Then instead of a cage or a pocket, he opens the velvet-lined box that had carried the glass slipper. Inside, a soft corner waits. He places us there, like we are part of the fairy tale. We rode back together. The carriage rocks gently as it nears the palace. Finn and I, huddled in the crystal box like stowaways. Nobody questioned it. Not the guards, not Ella, not even the prince.
You left a note.
The prince's voice was low, like he was asking the knight, not her. Bella tilted her head.
A note?
Someone did.
He said.
Was it him? The man you came with? Your horseman?
Ella blinked. looked down right at me, and then at Finn. Her smile softened.
I didn't leave a note.
She said gently. The prince nodded once, but he didn't say anything else. He just looked at me, not startled, not unsure, just steady. Then reached into his coat, pulled out a crumbled scrap of parchment, the one I tried to finish, folded it once, twice, and slid it gently into the box beside us. That night, the palace shimmered like a dream we weren't meant to stay in. Gold railings, marble floors, candlelight that danced until morning. Their servants has brought out tiny crumbs just for us. Soft cake, glazed nuts, sugared fruit, no bigger than my paw. Finn sat on the folded napkin beside the velvet box, eyes wide, cheeks stuffed like he was saving joy for later.
I didn't even know food could taste like this.
He was happy. He had never tasted anything that didn't come from a pantry floor or torn paperback, and now he was in heaven. I smiled, but it didn't reach my chest, because even in the glow of chandeliers, I felt a tug, a whisper of something unfinished. So I slipped away, climbed onto the windowsill, and looked out. The town glowed in the distance, tiny rooftops, chimney smoke curling like questions. I don't know how long I sat there, but Finn found me eventually. I didn't turn to him, just whispered, "We don't belong here." He didn't answer right away.
But they like us here.
He said. I nodded. But that's not the same. He crept closer, licking one last bite of icing from his paw.
We helped her, didn't we?
We did, I said.
So what now?
I smiled. We go home. We tell the others. We find a way to turn the attic into a ballroom, just for us. Finn blinked.
Even without magic?
Especially without magic. He looked at me for a long time, then nodded.
Okay,
he said.
Let's go.
And for the first time, I didn't ache at the sound. We were home. The attic was dusty again, quiet again, just the way we left it. I sat by the window. The palace belonged to Ella now, and we belonged to the part of the story people didn't remember. And that was okay. It was evening when we heard it, a carriage, stopping outside our very house. Finn bolted upright.
Is that?
I didn't move. Outside, the town was still holding its breath, waiting for an announcement. A wedding, a new queen, but none had come. Inside the carriage, the prince leaned forward and whispered,
The boy. The one she ran with. The one who left a note. I want to see him.
He didn't say my name, but I knew he remembered. A shimmer crossed the window span, then a voice.
You didn't go to the tree.
Fairy Godmouse said, hopping onto the cracked windowsill beside me.
Didn't need to.
Came the godmother's voice.
He found his story without it.
They looked at each other, then at me. A wink, a hum, a pulse of something old. The attic glowed. My skin prickled, my breast cocked, and then I stood. Not as a mouse, not as a mistake, not for one night only, but as human me. The door opened. The prince stepped inside. He didn't look surprised. He smiled. like he'd been walking toward this moment the whole time.
I was looking for you.
He said. And then he kissed me. Soft. Certain. Like maybe this was the ending. Or the beginning. The slipper had always been pointing toward. The prince made the announcement the very next morning. No trumpets. Just true.
I danced with a girl that night,
He said.
but I fell for someone else.
Gasp rippled across the courtyard, not in scandal, but in wonder.
His name is Mika,
The prince continued.
and we're getting married.
Some stared. Some smiled. Some clutched their pearls, a little tighter. But no one stopped it. Because something in his voice made it impossible to argue. They called it the first fairy tale wedding of its kind. Not because it was two princes, but because it was built on honesty, on choice, on someone not written in the story, being chosen anyway. Ella, she didn't mind. Not even a little. The palace gave her her own wing, full of books, blue dresses, and quiet balconies. She laughed more now. And Finn? Well, Finn stayed a mouse. He had no desire to be anything else. He lived in the royal pantry, with full diplomatic immunity and the twice-weekly delivery of fresh scones. And as for me, I ruled, not from a throne, but beside someone who never forgot to feel off my hand. We ruled with kindness, with laughter, with no more hiding in rafters. And if you ever ask how our story ends, it doesn't. Not really. Because some fairy tales don't close with a kiss. They open with one. And live happily ever after. If you stayed until the very end, thank you. Not just for listening, but for holding space for a mouse who has never meant to matter. If this story made you smile, or ache a little, or feel like maybe the smallest heart still deserved the biggest magic, then maybe it was always yours too. Feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a note. And if there are other stories you want whispered your way, queer ones, quiet ones, almost forgotten ones, you know where to find me. This has been The Slipper Wasn't Mine. Until next time.
The slipper wasn't mine.